Hi, my name is Molly and I work for the Big Garden. Today is lesson 3 of Grow Your Own and it's on composting.
Compost is made of decaying organic material that you can use to fertilize and condition your soil. Compost provides our plants with the nutrients they need to grow. It provides nitrogen, which helps in developing great plant leaves. It provides phosphorus, which helps with root growth, flower development, and fruit development. And it provides potassium, which aids in the overall health of the plant. So compost is more effective when it's got greens and browns in it. Greens are things like coffee grounds, which give a lot of nitrogen, banana peels, which give a lot of phosphorus, or any other plant material that's still got a little bit of juice in it, like apple cores or the really hard stem of broccoli. Browns are items that are made of plants but have completely dehydrated. So things like newspaper or cardboard or even dried leaves. Something that you might not think about as a brown are eggshells. The shell is made of a calcium carbonate, which is a really great source of carbon for your compost pile. So your greens provide nitrogen, phosphorus, and a little bit of liquid for your compost, and your browns provide carbon. Well, now that you know about what can go into compost, let's talk a little bit about what cannot. We can't put dairy in our compost because it's just gonna stink everything up. We can't do meat because that'll spoil and attract pests. And we can't put any fecal matter in there. You also can't compost anything like plastic because unfortunately, plastic never breaks down.
So there's 3 different ways that you can compost at home. You can create a bin like I'll show you today. You can use a compost tumbler, which is a barrel that you turn. Compost tumblers are really nice if you don't have a very big garden and you want to keep it nice and enclosed and you don't want it to be exposed to any animals or outside elements. Tumblers are really nice, especially if you don't plan on making large amounts of compost and you just kind of want to use your kitchen scraps and you want it to be on a smaller scale. Tumblers are an excellent choice for that. The most low budget way is to just create a pile with no boundaries. There are some advantages and disadvantages to that. One advantage is that it is free. You just start creating a pile wherever it's best on your property. Some disadvantages of that though is that it's difficult to separate the greens and browns when it's all in one pile. So today I will show you how I've developed my 3-bin compost. I found this online. I actually first saw this bin and I thought, wow, that is really great. It solves a lot of problems with some of these compost bins because, as I'll show you, the front has these wood slats that you can remove and add as the compost pile grows. And I really like that design. You can get the size of the boards and all the materials that you'll need to grow it from this Woodworking for Mere Mortals. Essentially, it has 3 panels and then the 4th one is the lid. All 3 of those sides and the lid is covered with chicken wire. And then in the front, you use the wood slats and you add or subtract the wood slats depending on the size of your pile. It was a really fun project. My friend David helped me with this project. So as you can see, we first treated the wood. I used a deck stain, a redwood deck stain, and then I used a waterproofing oil, and that's just to keep the wood from breaking down. I wanted something to keep that wood from decaying. So here we have a 3-bin compost bin. I have on the left my greens, in the center is where the compost will be decomposing, and then on the right I have my browns. It's recommended that you have a 3-to-1 ratio for your compost. 3 parts carbon to 1 part nitrogen. So 3 parts browns to 1 part greens. So it's best to do a lasagna method where you do it in layers. So you can add, your first layer can be your carbon, your browns, 3 parts browns, and then add a layer of your nitrogen. You can add your kitchen scraps or your grass clippings. Then make sure that you get a hose and you wet it all down. You don't want it to be sopping wet, but you want it to be the moistness of a damp sponge. If your compost pile starts to smell, most likely you need to add more carbon, just so you can get a good ratio. Ideally, your compost pile should not smell. It's best to get the internal temperature of your compost pile to reach 160 degrees. And there's 2 ways that you can increase your decomposition. One, make sure that you're mixing your compost pile. So get a pitchfork and mix your compost pile about once a week. And then get a hose and hose it down and make sure that it's moist, because it needs to be moist in order for it to break down. But you also don't want it to be sopping wet, because then that will delay decomposition and it will start to smell really bad. So you need to have a nice medium, but you don't want it to dry out, because that will slow down the decomposition process. And if you have that correct temperature, sometimes you will even see your pile steaming in the winter time during those cold temperatures. You can see the center of that pile steaming because of all the heat that's generated in the center, and that heat is from the decomposition process. The microbes and the worms and all that are breaking it down, and they're releasing heat, and that's what's breaking down all that into really fluffy compost. Your compost should have the texture of crumbly chocolate cake. It shouldn't have a strong odor, it should just smell like really good soil. So I hope you really enjoyed the video today and learned how to make a compost at home. I really hope you try it. One of the basic elements of gardening is reusing all of the plants and weeds and kitchen scraps to be able to reuse that and put that back in our soil. And you'll create a biome of microorganisms and earthworms, and you'll have a really healthy soil, and your plants will benefit from it, and you'll get nice, healthy vegetables from it. So it's important to learn how to compost and how to reuse these products that would normally go in the landfill. So I hope you enjoyed this. See you next time. Bye.